stand-up comedian from Gujarat, Munawar Faruqui, was arrested in Indore along with 4 others after the son of a BJP MLA complained against him. Munawar was arrested allegedly for his remarks on Hindu deities. He was accused of mocking victims of 2002 Godhra carnage. Now, he's been charged with outraging religious feelings, and this arrest was made under Section 295A of the IPC, that is deliberate and malicious act intended to outrage religious feelings of any class by insulting its religion or religious beliefs. A section that has been under scrutiny for its quality of being very arbitrary in nature. Now, why is there a scope for misuse of the section? Let me explain this to you. The section says deliberate and malicious acts intended to outrage religious feelings of any class by insulting its religion or religious beliefs. Now, the police are authorized to arrest without judicially sanctioned warrant. They can come in and arrest you. The very subjective nature of the term deliberate and malicious intention to insult, who decides what is deliberate? Who decides what is malicious? So tonight on the Urban Debate, we ask, in light of the repeated arbitrary arrests, is it time to relook Section 295A of the IPC? Do we take offense to comedy too soon? Are we too touchy? Are we too prickly when somebody says something? And how do you strike a balance between free speech and religious sentiments, or offending or hurting religious sentiments? To discuss this, joining us this evening, Tuhin Sinha, who is the leader of the BJP, Sanjay Hegde, senior advocate in Supreme Court, and Rahul Easwar. Rahul Easwar, let me start off with you. How do you define the term hurting religious sentiments? How do you define the term, this is offensive to my religious sentiments?
There are two things. Everyone agrees liberty is very important, but responsibility is more important than liberty. Everyone realizes creativity is very important, but sensitivity is as important or more important than creativity. So the only premise here is, yes, there is freedom of expression, creativity and liberty. At the same point of time, in a multicultural world, in a pluralistic society, in a very diverse nation and world, we need to be responsible. Responsibility should be there and sensitivity should be there. See, the core debate here is whether we have a right to offend. There is no right to offend under the Indian Constitution, and right to offend is not a fundamental right nor a right in our legal paradigm. Everyone has right and we should respect that. But your right to offend or your right to express definitely needs to have a Laxman Rekha. So as a collective society, we need to draw a Laxman Rekha. I am proud to belong to a group where we went to Kerala High Court and stopped the award to Sri M.F. Hussain. We respect the painter, but we have strong disagreements with many of his paintings. May it be comedians, may it be painters, may it be artists. There is always a Laxman Rekha. This is the same with the innocence of Muslims, which is a very offensive movie to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the core premise here is responsibility and sensitivity are 2 points that a Laxman Rekha is there. I agree it is amorphous. I agree it is vague. But at the same point of time, that kind of a line exists. And that line shouldn't be crossed, be it be the case of Hindus, Muslims or Christians. Okay,
Tuhin Sinha, the Supreme Court on a number of occasions, and I'm sure Sanjay Hegde can bear me out on this, has said what is offensive is when there is an incitement to violence, when you're spurring people on. Now, the right to offend, as Rahul Easwar is saying, is not there in law per se. But when you have somebody, for example, who stands up and says "Goli maro" and is urging people to fire bullets and "Goli maro" versus somebody who's cracked a joke and is now in jail, isn't the contrast so stark that it's obviously different rules for different people in this country?
Well, I know you keep bringing the Goli maro comment, but the Goli maro comment was against Gaddar, who were not defined. Over here,
but hurting religious sentiments isn't defined either, Mr. Sinha. And that is the point. Hurting religious sentiments is not defined. It wasn't a call to violence. In fact, nobody knows what was said. And I want to point this out to our viewers. We've tried the FIR that has been registered against Munawar Faruqui is extremely vague. It doesn't say, no, Tuhin, I'll come to you in just a minute. I just want to put this context out for our viewers. The FIR that is registered in this case is extremely vague. It doesn't say specifically what he has been accused of. It doesn't say what sentiments he's hurt by his specific comments. It's really vague. And I think it's important to put that out. Yes, Tuhin, please go ahead.
So ideally, in that case, we should be having the discussion after you find out what was said. What I know was that if you just juxtapose the situation, if instead of Munawar Faruqui, the same guy was Manish Tiwari, and had he made the similar comments against Prophet Muhammad, the result would have been something else. The complainant would not have filed a case under Section 295A. he would have probably issued death threats and something more bizarre would have happened. In this situation, if a private citizen felt that his religious sentiments were hurt, he had a right to approach the police and file an FIR, and the police has discharged its duty. I think we can certainly have a more elaborate discussion once we know the content of what was said. But to the best of my knowledge, the case has been filed under three specific sections, which is derogatory remarks against Hindu deities, falsification of Gotra Karish, plus there is something about mocking Mr. Shah. But primarily, it is about derogatory comments against Mr. Shah. Comedians like Kamra and Faruqui need to understand that, as Rahul Easwar rightly said today, need to rightly draw the Laxman Rekha. They can't be making disparaging comments against Hindu deities and think it is fine.
Mr. Sanatha, would you agree that the very law itself is now become a tool for persecution, especially if your views don't align with that of the ruling dispensation, be that BJP, and I'm not saying this is specific to the BJP, any political party, even whether it is in Telangana or whether it is in...
You need to understand that over here it is a mere coincidence that the complainant happens to be the son of a BJP MLA.
It is a coincidence that it's a son of a BJP MLA. It's a coincidence that the comment is allegedly about Mr. Amit Shah. It's a coincidence that it is in a BJP ruled state. So
I would file a similar complaint. I'm sure Rahul may agree with it. As a private citizen, if I feel hurt by those comments, I have every right to it. You can't grudge him for being a BJP MLA's son just because he has filed an FIR. I think let us find out what was said about. I think the larger discussion and more elaborate discussion can still happen on the content of what was said. But this trend of demeaning Hindu gods and goddesses, like I said, one of the comedians, Kamra, who in fact is a tragic comedian, has insulted the Supreme Court. Now, Mr. Hegde might enjoy that, might agree with that, but if you ask me, the way he has insulted the Supreme Court with his comments, that's not funny. That is crossing the limits, that is crossing the Laxman Rekha. And if action has been initiated under the right sections at this point of time, I welcome that.
Okay, Sanjay Hegde, please come in here because you were specifically mentioned by name as well. But the larger discussion that I also do want to have, however, is on the law itself and how vague it is and how it's becoming an instrument to arbitrarily arrest people.
Well, all laws are becoming instruments to indulge in vigilante justice. You make a harsh law and you apply it selectively on some people whom you don't like. In this case, there is a video out which showed that Mr. Munawar Siddiqui did not even say anything. The entire fracas arose even before he got up to speak. But anyway, I am quite enlightened by the thought that Amit Shah is now a Hindu god. You can't say things about Amit Shah. Otherwise, there will be somebody will feel offended about their religious sentiments. What are we coming to as a country? And I disagree with Rahul Easwar entirely. If free speech does not need any protection for popular speech. If you have to have free speech protection, it has to be for unpopular speech. Unpopular speech means speech that somebody might not like, somebody might get offended. Rahul, just hang on. Your turn will come. You may not like me speaking like this, but that is exactly what free speech is about. You have no right, if you do not like my speech, to go and get me locked up. Now, there is a larger problem that you can file any FIR about anyone, and a policeman's instinct often is to just lock people up. There is a larger problem about unwarranted arrests in this country. And let me also tell you why the policeman locked this man up. The policeman basically locked him up because the man was safer inside the lockup than being allowed outside where the mob could get him. So you lock the man up. You do not run administration with normal law and order in the streets of Madhya Pradesh. We have seen what is happening with regard to religious structures there. We have seen mobs
Sanjay
waving
Hegde,
flags.
I get your point. I know where you're getting at, but that's a conversation for some other time. Rahul Easwar has been raising his hand, waiting very patiently without interrupting you. So I think it's only fair to give him an opportunity to respond.
I have great respect to Sanjay ji, who is a legal luminary, but shouldn't we be realistic, sir? There is a thin line between free speech and hate speech. And more often than not, what happens in India is, if I like a hate speech, I call it free speech. If I don't like a free speech, I call it a hate speech. See, the free speech, hate speech debate should be there. Otherwise, it is very easy to offend anyone. I'm proud. I'm a Hindu right-wing activist. I was the first person to file a FIR against Sadhvi Prachi for an absolutely demeaning, unspeakable comment on national media regarding our Muslim brothers. There was innocence of Muslims. And please remember, it was the Congress regime which took action against the satanic verses and banned in India. When Jesus Christ was demeaned to Da Vinci Code, even Supreme Court stepped in and ordered 5 states to have a disclaimer saying that these are not historical facts. See, we are a land of various faiths. Unless we are sensitive to it, definitely there is going to be communal disharmony and trouble. So we need to, and rather
How
than
sensitive? In this country, if you trip over, you'll end up offending somebody's religious sentiments. Now, you said, interestingly, there is a difference between free speech and hate speech. And that exactly, and again, Sanjay Hegde, if you would like to come in here on legal precedent, the hate speech part is when you're inciting violence. Sanjay Hegde?
Yes. Now let me define it. I am free to say that Rahul Easwar does not understand the law. He may feel offended by it. I am not free to say that Rahul Easwar is so and so. Therefore, because he is so and so, he ought to be beaten up. Now that is inciting violence and that is inciting hate. So there is a very straight line, but there can't be prior restraint on free speech. And free speech can be regulated only by the courts and by the government and not by vigilante mobs. Do not justify vigilante mobs. Do not justify people who want to pursue their political career by saying, look, we got this comedian behind bars because he said so and so about the Home Minister. The Home Minister is not God. Do you dare say that is free speech? That the Home Minister of this country is not a Hindu God. Can we say that?
Tuhin, you want to come in?
No, see, I think that since we don't know the exact speech, I think to just put it on the Home Minister, that's a very astute ploy, which unfortunately we should not get into. The primary charge remains using derogatory comments against Hindu deities and falsification of the Kodra carnage, which are big issues. So don't confuse it. Maybe, for all you know,
there is nothing which prevents me from saying anything about Godra. That is not hate speech.
For all you know, considering the way the fake news industry thrives in this country, for all you know, the Amit Shah charge is not there at all. It has just been tweeted by the likes of Rana Ayub to minimalize and to trivialize an important case. So I think we should wait for the contents of the case. But yes,
the FIR is out. No,
please don't interfere, Mr. For a long time, the likes of Faruqui, the likes of some of the others, which may not include comedians, which included people like Zakir Naik, M.F. Hussain, and a whole lot of these people had been taking chances and misprojecting or abusing Hindu gods and goddesses. The society has changed, the times have changed. Yes, we are in a more vigilant mode right now. But whatever is happening within the due process of law.
Tuhin,
So
I just want to come in here. This is from the FIR. I'm reading from this. In the show, indecent comments hurting Hindu sentiments were being passed against Hindu gods and goddesses, Hindu religion and traditions. Car sevaks who lost their lives in Godra incident and Home Minister Amit Shah as witnessed by the complainant along with his colleagues. That is just to answer your question about what was said. In the FIR specifically, there is no mention of what exactly was said. This person who walked into the show walked in without having seen it, without having known what is there, because the FIR specifically makes no mention of that. Unfortunately, gentlemen, we're completely out of time. The debate, though, continues. How do we balance free speech versus religious sentiments, especially in a country like ours, where there is wide scope for misuse of the law and there are extreme religious sensitivities attached in a number of cases? It is a debate that is ongoing, but perhaps it is time now to relook these loosely worded laws which become instruments for harassment. Okay, and on that note, it's a wrap on this edition of the Urban Debate. Thank you so much for watching.